Welcome back to the Gentleman's Gazette. In today's video, we'll discuss the meanings behind different varieties of flowers. For men, wearable flowers are almost exclusively reserved for boutonnieres. But as different varieties of flowers have different meanings behind them, it's important to know what these meanings are when you decide you'd like to wear a boutonniere. Many flower varieties have rich histories behind them, and because they do communicate different meanings, it's important to know them when you're wanting to wear a boutonniere or if you're giving a bouquet of flowers as a gift. Flower varieties have been associated with different meanings ever since mankind began to document itself. The ancient Egyptians, Greeks, Romans, and Chinese all had documentation for the meanings behind flowers, and William Shakespeare made no fewer than 200 references to flowers and their meanings in his various works. The most famous of these is likely a quote from Romeo and Juliet, where Juliet is quoted as saying, "What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet." And while flower meaning and symbolism does go back all the way into the ancient world, it was the Victorians who took flower meanings to a whole new level. Flowers came to take on the role of communicating thoughts and sentiments that couldn't be expressed out loud, and many, if not most homes, had books that were reference guides as to what the meanings of different flowers were. At this time, flowers took on especially unique and narrow meanings, such as striped carnations signaling refusal or spring crocuses representing youthful gladness. So, while it's clear that well-to-do Victorians definitely had somewhat limited hobbies, flowers do still have meanings today, even if they aren't quite as loaded as they were in the past. So, with that in mind, let's take a look at some of the most common choices men make for boutonniere flowers and the meanings behind them. One more note here before we continue is that the meanings behind different flowers may vary based upon region, depending on where you are in the world. So it's always best to check what the meanings behind a flower may be before you wear it in a given region, as flowers may represent anything as diverse as celebrations, political parties or movements, milestones, and so on. We'll start today with the Edelweiss, which is a famous wildflower that only grows in the rocky limestone mountains of Austria, Switzerland, and Germany between elevations of 5,000 to 10,000 feet. The Edelweiss has a long and symbolic history in Europe, and it's still featured on many things like coins and coats of arms in various European countries. It's also been used as a symbol by various political groups, military units, brands, alpine clubs, and even the Swiss Department of Tourism. Furthermore, it was also used as a symbol by both anti-Nazi youth groups and German mountain and airborne divisions during World War II. And after the war, the Edelweiss was cemented in American popular culture with a song of the same name in the musical The Sound of Music. Edelweiss, Edelweiss. In said musical, it symbolized Captain Von Trapp's patriotism and a rejection of the Nazi annexation of Austria. Today, the Edelweiss has endured as a representation of courage and devotion, which makes it a favorite choice to be worn at weddings. But due to its relatively subtle look, it pairs well with multiple different varieties of jackets and other combinations in menswear. The flower has velvety petals and a flat profile, which make it ideal for a boutonniere. Famous wearers of the Edelweiss would include the Duke of Windsor, Prince Charles, John F. Kennedy, Douglas Fairbanks, and Fred Astaire. You can take a look at the Edelweiss boutonniere we offer in the Fort Belvedere shop here, and keep in mind that it's one of our most popular sellers for a reason. It looks truly authentic, and it's a piece that Raphael gets frequent compliments on, as evidenced by this video here. Next up is the cornflower, an endangered wildflower that's native to Europe. Its distinctive and beautiful shade of a pale indigo color is often called by the flower's name, cornflower blue. As you might have guessed, the flower got this name because it was often found growing in and amongst cornfields. Cornflowers have had symbolic meaning for centuries, going as far back as ancient Egypt, where they were found in a woven garland around the neck of the mummified pharaoh Tutankhamun. Historically, cornflowers were worn by young men in love, and it was said that if the cornflower wilted or faded quickly, that the young man's love would not be returned. Today, though, the cornflower represents wealth, prosperity, fortune, and friendship. Other meanings include hope, remembrance, devotion, delicacy, anticipation, unity, fertility, and love, depending on the context. It's also associated with the 1918 armistice in France, so there it's worn in a similar fashion to how the poppy is worn in other countries. By the way, we'll discuss the poppy in a moment. The cornflower was a favorite of John F. Kennedy, and it's also a favorite for Prince Charles, who still wears one regularly. The rich color of this flower makes it well suited to everything from business attire and cocktail attire to tweed sport coats worn with odd trousers. Fort Belvedere offers cornflowers in the classic blue hue as well as in 3 other colorways, including the one I'm wearing here today. Next up, we'll cover one of the most popular and quintessential boutonniere flowers, the carnation. As this flower has been cultivated by humans for over 2,000 years, it's actually not entirely clear where it originated. With that said, though, wild carnations can still be found growing in parts of southern and eastern Europe. Alongside the rose, the carnation is one of the most well-known, symbolic, and popular boutonniere flowers to exist. With various associations all around the world, the symbolic meanings of the carnation are frankly too numerous to list here. In general, though, carnations most often represent love, fascination, and distinction. With that said, though, each color of carnation can have its own specific meaning. For example, pale red is for admiration, dark red for love and affection, white carnations representing pure love and good luck, purple indicating capriciousness, pink symbolizing gratitude, and yellow symbolizing disappointment or rejection. Green carnations, meanwhile, have their own special history. They're commonly worn on St. Patrick's Day and also associated frequently with the Irish writer Oscar Wilde. Perhaps because of this association, they also became a symbol of homosexuality in the early 20th century, though this specific meaning hasn't persisted as much. As mentioned, carnations are one of the most famous boutonniere styles and have been sported by many of the most debonair men of all time. Carnations were a favorite for Fred Astaire in white for both black tie and white tie ensembles. They're also a style staple for the James Bond character, being worn by both Daniel Craig and Sean Connery in dinner jacket outfits. Prince Charles wears carnations in both small and large sizes and in multiple colors, though he's especially partial to miniature magenta carnations. And we've got a wide range of carnation boutonnieres in the Fort Belvedere shop. They come in 2 sizes, small and large, and in 5 different colorways. If you're just getting started with them, we might recommend a life-size red carnation for black tie ensembles, but we'd encourage you to experiment with carnations as they are especially versatile. Next up, likely the most famous flower of all, the rose. The term rose actually applies to more than 300 different species of flower. This ubiquitous flower has a long cultural history, and many different civilizations and groups, like the ancient Romans and Greeks and early Christian societies, adopted rose-related symbolism. Of course, the rose is the long-standing symbol of love and passion, but like the carnation, different colors of roses can have different meanings as well. Red roses stand for love, passion, and romance. pink for grace, gratitude, joy, and admiration, orange for enthusiasm and passion, yellow for friendship, and white for purity, innocence, and youthfulness. With that said, though, the traditional long-stemmed rose has a substantial bloom that is usually too large, heavy, and tall to serve well as a boutonniere. Also, the petals don't really open outward much, so they can't be seen well by other people. This also explains why you've likely seen your fair share of oversized, drooping rose boutonnieres at weddings and proms. They're simply too big most of the time. That's why at Fort Belvedere we opted to produce spray roses, which are shorter, wider blooms whose petals open wide for everyone to see. Alongside a red carnation, a red spray rose is also a classic choice as a black tie boutonniere, but it can also work equally well for business suits and even tweed jackets. At Fort Belvedere, we carry spray roses in 6 different boutonniere options. Velvet red is great for evening attire and other formal events. Regular red is useful for evenings, but it's also versatile for day wear. White and ivory are all season and all occasion, and peach and orange are excellent for summer, garden parties, and weddings. Finally today, we'll discuss the poppy. While this flower also has a long and symbolic history with mankind, its meaning is much more somber than the other flowers we've discussed. Poppies have long served as symbols for sleep, peace, and death. The ancient Greeks and Romans used them as offerings to the dead, and even further back in history, the ancient Sumerians used them to extract their opium. Given that opium is a sedative, this may be where the association between poppies and sleep originated. Today, one of the most powerful associations that the poppy carries, though, is with the Remembrance Day holiday on November 11th, celebrated by many countries around the world, and it commemorates those who have died in war. As wild poppies sprout quickly in recently disturbed ground, they grew rapidly in the battlefields and graveyards of World War I, and thus came to be associated with commemorating the dead from that horrific conflict. And on Remembrance Day in various countries around the world, poppy boutonnieres or lapel pins are commonly worn. Oftentimes, these faux poppies can look especially artificial, but we at Fort Belvedere offer poppies that are much more realistic in design, though they will still last much longer than a natural bloom. Out of respect for the meaning that this flower carries, it shouldn't be worn for light-hearted or celebratory occasions, and even for funerals, it's probably best to check with local customs first. So, for men, these 5 boutonniere styles are the top choices, and they'll work well for a wide range of occasions. They're all definitely classic options, and they're sure to make you look as though you've put in an extra amount of effort, which of course you have. With that said, though, in the Fort Belvedere shop we also carry many more other boutonniere options, including delphiniums, geraniums, lotuses, cherry blossoms, buttercups, forget-me-nots, marguerites, hydrangeas, dahlias, daisies, sweet william, phlox, and more. This unusual array of unique flower options will help you to find the right one for your particular ensemble, and if you choose one of the more popular options, you'll also be armed with the knowledge of the various storied meanings behind those flower types. In today's video, my overall color palette is working in blues and greens, but I'm of course wearing accents in shades of pink. Perhaps the most notable would be my white and magenta cornflower boutonniere, which is one of the several options we offer at Fort Belvedere. I've paired this boutonniere with a vintage bow tie in magenta madder silk featuring a relatively bold geometric pattern, and a handcrafted linen pocket square also from Fort Belvedere in burgundy red and white featuring a hand-rolled white X stitch. My sport coat, which has a bit of a teal tone to it, is in a bird's eye weave and also has contrasting buttons, and I'm wearing it over a shirt featuring a check pattern of light blue and green on a white ground. My trousers are in a taupe color, and my shoes are chocolate brown suede cap-toed Oxfords made on the Undandy website. Other Fort Belvedere accessories in my outfit today include light brown shoelaces, which I've put into the shoes, shadow-striped socks in gray and Prussian blue, and my cufflinks, which are in a monkey's fist knot design and a rose gold color to echo some of the warmer tones in the other pink-colored accessories. You can find the various Fort Belvedere accessories I'm wearing today in the Fort Belvedere shop, as well as, of course, a wide variety of different boutonniere options, as we already mentioned.